Understanding Karma and Liberation, a study guide. This study guide explores the intricate concepts of fate, free will, and spiritual realization as presented in the excerpts from Sri Bhagavath's work. It focuses on the mechanics of karma, the nature of the mind, and the transition from desire-driven actions to divine spontaneity. Part I. Short answer quiz instructions. Answer the following 10 questions in 2-3 sentences based on the source context. 1. Explain the difference between Sanchita and Prarabdha karma. 2. How does the author define Agamiya karma, and why is it considered the pivotal point of all karmas? 3. According to the text, how does God assist a person in overcoming a crisis that exceeds their destined Prarabdha karma? 4. Describe the relationship between planetary influences, astrology, and human destiny as presented in the text. 5. What is the significance of the oil bowl metaphor in the story of King Janaka and the disciple? 6. Define Nishkamya karma and explain how it differs from Kamya karma. 7. Why does the author argue that God cannot be blamed for human suffering or perceived partiality? 8. In the context of the mind, what does transcendence signify according to the source? 9. What is the central message of the Zen story regarding the master who was transformed into a fox? 10. What is the birthless state, and how does a liberated person's approach to rebirth differ from that of a non-liberated person? Part 2. Answer key. 1. Sanchita versus Prarabdha. Sanchita karma is the immeasurable total stock of all past deeds, virtues, and sins accumulated over many births, similar to a total bank balance. Prarabdha karma is the specific portion of that stock withdrawn for the current birth to determine one's environment, body, and destined experiences. 2. Agamiya karma. This is newly generated karma created through an individual's free will and conscious choices in the present life. It is the pivotal point because it is the only karma under human control, eventually joining the Sanchita stock and influencing future Prarabdha. 3. Divine assistance. When there is justice in a prayer, God can resolve a crisis by taking good aspects from an individual's Sanchita karma account and bestowing them in the present. If no such good deeds exist in the Sanchita stock, even God is unable to intervene to change the current Prarabdha. 4. Astrology and planets. The 9 planets are described as mere indicative meters, or mathematical markers that indicate speed and direction, like a speedometer, but they possess no independent power. They reflect the structure of Prarabdha karma, but their predictions can be rendered erroneous by the intervention of Agamiya karma. 5. The oil bowl. The oil bowl represents the human mind. When the disciple felt responsible for the bowl, the mind, he was consumed by fear or joy and could not see the world. When he carried it without a sense of responsibility or fear of consequences, he achieved a state of observation and liberation. 6. Nishkamya versus Kamya. Kamya karma refers to actions performed with a desire for specific results or fortunes. Nishkamya karma is unconditional action, performed without a sense of doership or craving for fruits, occurring spontaneously according to the circumstances. 7. God's impartiality. The text posits that God operates within the laws of nature and the theory of karma, rather than acting on whims or favoritism. Humans are solely responsible for their own suffering or happiness, based on the cumulative account of their own past good and bad deeds. 8. Transcendence. Transcendence is defined as a mind-related process of not getting stuck at some point. It involves penetrating through the mental pictures and feelings that color our perception of the physical world, rather than physically moving away or entering a frozen state of samadhi. 9. The Fox Story. The story illustrates that even a Gnani realized soul is subject to the worldly laws of cause and effect. While mentally liberated, a Gnani must still fulfill worldly duties and activities, as denying the law of cause and effect leads to spiritual stagnation or becoming a fox. Birthless state. Rebirth. is caused by the compulsion to experience unexhausted joys and sorrows. Once the desire-oriented performing pattern ends, the compulsion to be born vanishes. A non-liberated person is born out of necessity, whereas a liberated person may choose to take birth out of free will to serve mankind. Part 3. Essay Questions Instructions. Use the source context to develop comprehensive responses to the following prompts. 1. The sovereignty of action. Discuss the author's argument that Agamiya karma is the master key in a person's hands. How does this concept challenge the idea of absolute fatalism? And what role does free volition play in transforming one's fate? 2. The nature of the divine. Analyze the text's portrayal of God. Contrast the corrupt politician model of deity with the source context description of God as a judicious administrator of natural law. How does this view reconcile the concepts of divine mercy and karmic justice? 3. Psychology of the Gnani. Explore the mental state of a practical Gnani. How does the text differentiate between a frozen or coma-like state of samadhi and the natural, spontaneous state of realization that remains accessible to the common man? 4. The spontaneity of emotion. Explain the author's perspective on feelings like anger, fear, and sadness. How does the handcart metaphor explain the way a realized individual interacts with spontaneous emotions without claiming ownership of them? 5. Virtue as strategy. Evaluate the importance of noble acts and virtues in the context of karma theory. Why does the author suggest that performing good deeds is superior to performing elaborate rituals, yagnas, or seeking astrological remedies? Part 4. Glossary of key terms. Term definition. Agamiya karma. Newly generated karma, created by an individual's current choices and free will. It is added to the Sanchita account. Brahman. The life essence, nobility, and ultimate truth that originates the universe. It is innate life itself, rather than a solid physical status. Chith. The wisdom, or subtle part, of the Prakriti universe. Gnana. Self-realization, or the clarity of understanding the mind's inability to be controlled. Gnani A. Realized soul, who performs actions spontaneously, nishkamya, and is mentally liberated from the doership of actions. Iswara Vyakti. The formation or manifestation of God, deity, as a higher form of subtle prakriti. Jiva Vyakti. The formation or manifestation of a human being. Kamya karma action, performed with a desire for specific fruits, virtues, or good fortunes. Result-oriented action. Mahat. The universal mind, or subtle universe, the source of subtle bodies. Nishkamya karma action, performed without desire or attachment to the results. Spontaneous, divine action, free from the sense of, I am the doer. Prakriti. The universe, divided into physical, 5 elements, and subtle universal mind components. Prarabdha karma. The portion of Sanchita karma allotted to be experienced and extinguished during the current birth. It determines one's environment and life path. Sanchita karma. The cumulative sum total of all karma, good and bad, from all previous births. The savings account of a soul's actions. Subtle body. A phenomenon of the subtle prakriti, containing the mind and consciousness. It is capable of existing outside the physical body.